People buy fermented foods for probiotics. But fermentation doesn't work because microbes survive. It works because microbes reshape the food before you ever eat it. In the next few minutes, you will see how a simple ancient cooking process can change digestion, nutrient availability, and flavor in ways that consistently shows up across food cultures and nutrition research. Health isn't built with perfect meals or single nutrients. It's shaped by small cooking choices repeated every day. And fermentation is one of the most powerful tools you can use. I am Gina, and that's the lens behind Vital Cook, everyday culinary guidance designed to work in real kitchens. Across cultures, fermentation wasn't just a way to save food, it was a way to make food more usable by the body. Fermentation happens when beneficial microbes, bacteria or yeast, consume parts of the food, usually sugars or starches. They work mostly without oxygen, and as they make energy for themselves, they release acids, enzymes, and gases. Those byproducts don't just preserve the food, they change it. In culinary medicine, fermentation is external digestion. The microbes do the part what your body would normally do, but it does it before the food enters your body. Fermentation doesn't only add microbes to food, it also changes fibers and carbohydrates into forms that are easier for beneficial gut bacteria to use. So, fermented foods often work in two ways, delivering microbes and feeding the microbes already inside you. That combination is sometimes called a symbiotic effect. That's the main function of the microbes that we introduce with the fermented food. In vegetables, fermentation primarily breaks down cell walls and antinutrients. That softening can improve mineral availability like iron and zinc without destroying heat-sensitive compounds. For example, beta-carotene in carrots doesn't disappear during fermentation. In some cases, this bioaccessibility improves because the plant structure is easier to break down. Not every nutrient increases. Some vitamins may decrease, but absorption efficiency often improves. In grains and legumes, fermentation targets complex carbohydrates. Microbes break down fermentable sugars that often cause gas and discomfort. This is why fermented batters, sourdough or legume ferments are often better tolerated, especially for people sensitive to beans or whole grain. And additionally, fermentation also reduces the phytates from your carbs, allowing more of the zinc and iron and all the other minerals to be absorbed by our body. Proteins are primarily made of amino acids. With protein-rich foods, fermentation partially breaks proteins into amino acids. That's why fermented foods often taste deeper, more savory. Also, secondly, the same breakdown process creates the flavor of umami. The same flavor that you find in miso or aged cheese, even tempeh, that gives you a better flavor satisfaction. It can also make proteins easier to digest, though the effect depends heavily on time, salt, and temperature. Pickles are usually treated as fermented by default, but many are preserved, not fermented, and your gut responds very differently to each. Traditional pickles are made of vegetables sat in salt and water brine. Here's where confusion happens. Traditional fermentation allows microbes to slowly produce acid. Vinegar pickling adds acid instantly, stopping microbial activity. In culinary perspective, both have their own places. Fermented pickles give us more of the health benefits as we want, and store-bought ones gives us the flavor definitely, although not all the health benefits. You don't need special equipment to see fermentation in action. Vegetables, salt, water, and time are enough. Salt slows harmful microbes, while beneficial bacteria converts sugars into acids, preserving the food naturally. Bubbles, sourness, and cloudiness are signs that the process is working. Fermentation is right only in a controlled environment. The time, temperature, and salt, each of these components has to be controlled. Seeing the color deepening or all bubbles forming and the brine getting cloudy, that's the fermentation working correctly. On the other hand, if you see molds appearing, it's stinking, that's all gone wrong. discard it immediately. In culinary medicine, technique matters. Fermentation is beneficial only when time, temperature, and salt are controlled. Process determines the outcome. Most problems with fermentation don't come from the food. They come from treating fermentation like a shortcut instead of a skill. Too much, too fast, poor salt control, letting things ferment warm for too long, and assuming more is always better. A large part of the immune system sits in and around the gut. When fermentation supports a more stable gut environment, it can help regulate immune signaling. This doesn't mean fermented foods prevent illness, but they support how the immune system responds over time. In culinary medicine, fermented foods are treated like a dietary exposure, not a supplement. Small portions integrated into meals are enough. What matters more than quantity is frequency. Fermented foods work best when they sit with a meal, not when they are treated like the meal. A small side of fermented vegetables with lentils, a spoonful of kimchi on a rice bowl, or a sourdough alongside a fiber-rich plate, that's enough. You don't need much, just enough and often. The key is not intensity, it's consistency. Small portions alongside your whole meals, eaten regularly, a few times a week. Fermentation improves digestibility, lowers compounds that make digestion harder, changes minerals to become easier to absorb, and its acidity and depth make meals more enjoyable. Fermented foods don't suit every digestive system. Some can be high in salt or histamine, and not all fermented foods still contain live microbes by the time you eat them. That's why more isn't always better. Small, regular amounts tends to work best. Start by adding one fermented food in your meals and see how your body behaves. Adapt accordingly. If taking every day is a problem for you, try it only once or twice a week, but make it regular. Fermentation began as a method to preserve food in ancient times, but unknowingly, the transformation in the food was also helping their health. In culinary medicine, we do focus on fermentation as a means for better gut health, better metabolism, and long-term health support. It doesn't cure diseases, but it improves how food behaves in your body. Using it consistently and appropriately, it becomes a powerful preventative tool. If fermented foods haven't felt helpful for you, it's usually not about the food, it's about how they are being used. If you're struggling, reach out and I can help. If practical cooking science like this helps you cook with more confidence, you will find more of it in Vital Cook.